Good morning, everyone. A good tavach, Shavua Tov. As we mentioned last week on Thursday, Baruch Hashem, we finished the main body of the text of the Beith HaLevy's Maimar Bitachon, and I hope that everybody feels an infusion of Bitachon in their lives much more than it was when we began. So today we are going to begin what's called the Pesukim of Bitachon, the verses of Bitachon. Now, this is really something that was made well known by the Maharal of Prague, where he held very strong that if a person will recite on a daily basis Pesukim, verses from all of Tanakh, different places in Tanakh, of Bitachon that speak about one's trust and the reliance in HaKadosh Baruch Hu, it will place these words deep into our heart. And Rachmana Liba Boy HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants our hearts in our Avodas Hashem. He wants us to have a hislavus, to have an enthusiasm, to have a hispilus, to be excited and encouraging about our Avodas Hashem. And the words that we have written in the Torah and Tanakh that speak about this, and of course if we understand the ideas that are behind it even more, so it will influence our hearts in very strong and powerful ways, and we'll have the words of Bitachon on our lips constantly. Says the Maharal writes that after a person recites these Pesukim, he can even offer up a special tefillah to HaKadosh Baruch Hu to help him acquire great quality of Bitachon. And the Maharal, going back about 500 years ago, he was already lamenting in his time that people were declining in their Bitachon. There were many, many difficulties and issues in those days. It wasn't easy to live. It wasn't easy to exist. There were the pressures of the nations around them, the pressures of the goyim that were lurking everywhere. Their health was not well. The food supply was short. It was a difficult time. And therefore Bitachon was waning amongst Klal Yisrael. So the Maharal said this is going to be a way to be mechazik, to strengthen our Bitachon. He says also that if a person says these psukim, these verses, they have the ability to nullify harsh decrees that there are against Klal Yisrael. And he says that when soldiers were going out to war, if they would recite these verses, it would help them fight the battles. Even businessmen that were going out to business, or before they would begin their workday, they could say these verses of Bitachon, and that would be mechazik, that would strengthen them, and it would give them siyata d'shemaya, special assistance over there in making parnasa. And as we're pointing out throughout this entire sefer, it's not magic. Bitachon is not a magical thing. It is when you really strengthen yourself and you work on it and it becomes a part of who you are. So then the Bitachon shapes and forms your life, and it brings about that special siyata d'shemaya that you are showing that you trust and you rely upon. The Sefer HaChinuch, one of the Rishonim, he also points out that if a person says, for example, in Tehillim, Yoishe b'Seisa El Yoin, the whole chapter of Tehillim, which speaks about HaKadosh Baruch Hu's special protection over a person, and you put your trust in HaKadosh Baruch Hu in that way, by saying over these verses, and you rely upon Hashem's unlimited mercy, in this merit of you saying over the words and relying upon HaKadosh Baruch Hu's limitless mercy in your life, Hashem will protect you from harm that is coming your way. The Mishpat Tzedek writes about the Maharal, that the Maharal had a very long list of psukim about Bitachon, where he said that a person should say these verses every single day. And he said that if a person is able to, they should make their own list of psukim, verses that speak to you. Everybody will find a verse somewhere in the Torah, somewhere in Tanakh, many verses that speak about Bitachon, that speak your language, that speak the language of your neshama, and therefore you should have those as well. Now Rav Zundel of Salant, who was the Rabbi of Rav Yisrael Salanter, he wrote in a letter to his son that he said you should review these psukim of Hashgacha, of Bitachon and Yeshua, of HaKadosh Baruch Hu's providence, of our trust in Hashem and salvation on a regular basis, in order that you will be able to inculcate these ideas inside of you. And Rav Zundel of Salant wrote that if you have this bitachon in Hashem, you'll live calmly and you'll confidently, because you know that you are under the loving embrace and the care and the watchful eye of the Ribbono Shel Olam. And further, we find these ideas written in the Zohar. It will strengthen one's heart in the service of HaKadosh Baruch Hu if they make their bitachon that much stronger. And in the Gemara Yerushalmi, it says that a person should say the pasuk regularly, Hashem tzvakos imanu mizkav lanu elokei Yaakov Sela, that Hashem watches over us, He's a fortress, He's the God of Yaakov Avinu. And Ashrei Adam Beiteich Bach, and also the Pesukim of fortunate is the one who trusts in you, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Hashem Hoshia Melech Yaneinu V'Yom Kareinu, also the verse that Hashem will answer us when we call out. If, in fact, you will recite these verses, it will make a tremendous reishim and impression on who you are. And therefore, that's the reason over here that we have to start learning these psukim, to internalize them, to make it part of our mindset, the consciousness of our life, so that when anything is about to happen in your life, instead of getting nervous, instead of getting anxious, instead of beginning to worry, which again is the natural state of a person, is when bad tidings come our way, when difficult situations arise, when challenges that seem beyond our grasp pop up and crop up in our life, immediately we go into panic mode. If a person is holding in these psukim, and they're natural in his mouth and in his heart, they flow from the depths of one's heart, so then what we're learning over here is that will become the person that you are. And instead of the immediate response of being nervous, the immediate response will be a pasuk of bitachon that will bring a person tremendous amounts of peace and tranquility. And therefore, says Rav Zundel of Salant, he put together a list of the psukim, and these are the list of psukim that we are going to go through with some commentaries to understand a little deeper what is going on. Many of them, as we shall see, are from Sefer Tehillim. Dovid HaMelech was the master of bitachon. As we'll see, there never was a person who lived a more challenging life than Dovid HaMelech, and yet, no matter what was going on around him, he seemed never to fear and never to worry and the like. So we will start Be'ez Hashem tomorrow with the list of the psukim, one pasuk a day Be'ez Hashem, to increase our levels of internalizing the message of bitachon, of relying in Hashem. Have a wonderful day.